Welcome, guys. This is the Ranbir Sanghera Fat Loss and Gains Show. Okay, so today we're going to talk about a lot of people try to change their body, and we're going to talk about the single biggest reason your body still looks the same. Okay, so we're going to go over the three things that are important here, and by the end of this, you'll have the exact blueprint of what you need to do to start to make your body look different, okay? So grab a cup of coffee, grab a piece of paper and a pen to take some notes, and let's get right into it, okay? Clean tablecloths are very important. But anyways, so there's one ingredient, and the missing ingredient is volume. And so I want to first describe what volume is. Volume is simply the amount of pounds that you lift, okay? So a very simple example, if I'm doing bicep curls and I use a 10-pound dumbbell and I do that 10 times, I just did 100 pounds of volume. And if I do 4 sets of that, I just did 400 pounds of volume, okay? And now the reason that the body doesn't change is because you're not giving the body a reason to change. That reason is volume. So unfortunately, your body doesn't care about what you want, right? So I want to be super jacked. My body doesn't care one way or another. It doesn't understand that. What it does understand is stimulus, okay? And so if I make it do some work, right? My body changes. Now, rather than this being some random vague thing about, well, I know I need to work out. Everybody knows we need to work out for our bodies to change, but we don't know what is causing the change, because we see the guys and the girls who look amazing and we're like, oh man, like I want to look like that. But you don't know, okay, you know they're lifting weights, some of them are doing Pilates, some of them are working out, and some of them are dieting. Like what is causing the change, right? The thing that causes a body to change is volume, okay? Because, without getting too deep into the science side of it, there is a principle in the body. It is called the SAID principle, okay? S-A-I-D. It is specific adaptation to impose demand. All that means is if you make the body do something, it's going to adapt to that. That's it. So, examples. People who lift weights tend to be more muscular and have better physiques. They have shape, right? People who run frequently tend to have better endurance. Why? Because you impose a demand on the body and it adapts to that. That's what the body does. Very simple, right? So we're going to keep that just to like the shape of our body. There's people, maybe you're the person who lost a bunch of weight, but then you didn't really like the way that you looked because maybe you were still soft. Maybe you had no definition, maybe you lost 40 pounds. You did all this work. You lost 40 pounds, right? You started to eat better. Maybe you started to do more activity. Like maybe you did cardio. It doesn't matter. The point is you lost the weight, you did that work, but then you still had no shape or no definition. So what's going on? Well, the reason why was because your muscles are what give you shape and definition, and the thing that causes muscles to change is volume, right? So how do you figure that out? So volume, like I said, is the amount of total weight that you lift. So obviously you can look at this in a set, right? So like we used the example, we did 10 pounds for 10 repetitions. That was 100 pounds, right? That was in one set. You can look at it in a workout, maybe cumulatively in one workout, but between all the different exercises that you did when you added up, maybe you came out to 6,000 pounds of volume or work that you did. You can look at it per week. Maybe, you do 4 workouts and they add up to 24,000 pounds during that week. And then over the month, and then over the year. Now, he who accumulates, or she who accumulates the most volume over the longest period of time without getting injured is going to have the biggest impacts in how they look. we're going to get into some things that you need to think about because, and like right off the bat, I know there's going to be people who are going to be like, well, okay, I'm going to do 20,000 pounds every day, 50,000 pounds every day. Well, remember the other thing that I just said, which is without getting hurt, okay? Because your body is built to handle stress. There's a level. When you go beyond that level of stress that your body is capable of managing, it breaks. Okay, so stress is good, but as long as we keep it under what our body can take, okay? So for a certain person, it might not be a lot of volume. So if you've never worked out and you come in and you try to deadlift 400 pounds or 200 pounds or maybe even, 100 pounds and you've never done anything, how much stress you can absorb without breaking is probably not a lot. So your goal, your objective is to slowly, over time, over weeks and months and years, begin to ramp up, right, your volume. It's not going to be, we shoot straight up in a straight line, right? It's going to be like this, okay? Now, so going back to the second point, how do you do it? So, there's a lot of apps out there or spreadsheets where it'll track the volume for you. So that's cool. Another simple way, and I'm just going to teach you the simple way because then you can use whatever you want. If you understand how the basics work, then you can use an app, you can use whatever. So what you'll do, okay, and this is literally how I used to do it in my notebook. What I would do is, let's see here. Let's erase this guy. Okay. So what I used to do is I would write the exercise in my notebook, and this is why it's important to track. This is why people who don't track their workouts, they never make that much change. They don't look very different even though they've been working out forever. Okay. I'll write the workout. Let's say it's deadlift. Okay. This is my workout for today. Okay. It is January 7th, 2019, let's say, okay? My first exercise is the deadlift. My plan is to do 4 sets of 8, okay? And so what I'll do is I'll do my warm-ups, and generally, this is a topic for another video, but I'll generally do 3-ish warm-up sets, slowly building the weight up to what I want to use. So all in all that day, I'll actually do 7 sets, but 3 of them were warm-ups. And sometimes you'll need more warm-ups, but again, that's a topic for another day. Let's say the weight that I'm going to use for this is going to be, let's say, 300 pounds, okay? So the way that I track this, okay, I'll write this first, because that's the plan. Then I'll track the sets, okay? And the way that I track sets is like this. So the first set that I do after my warm-ups, let's say it is 8 reps, okay? And then I'll put a comma. That tells me in the first set I did 8 reps. Then in the next set, let's say I get another 8, okay? Let's say in the third set I get another 8. And let's say on the last set, best set, maybe I'm a little fatigued, maybe for whatever reason it didn't feel right, whatever it is, let's say I do 7, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all of the reps that I did and multiply it by this weight, because that's the weight that I used, okay? So I'll do 8 plus 8 plus 8, which is 24, plus 7, so 31. So then I'll multiply 300 pounds by 31, okay? So that gives me 9,300 pounds. So I did 9,300 pounds for this set, okay? Now, like I said earlier, you don't want to just say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do 50,000 pounds. I'm going to see if you've been working out already and you kind of have an idea of what weights you're using. You get an idea of like how much volume are you doing per workout or something, okay? So maybe it turns out you're only getting about 6,000 pounds of volume. Awesome. So let's try to, over the next few weeks and months, let's try to bump up the average daily and weekly volume by a little bit, okay? And so how can you do that? You can increase rep sets and or weight, okay? So let's say the following week I come back and I go 5 sets of 8, I've increased my volume. Even if I did 4 sets of 9, I've increased my volume. If I did 4 sets of 8 at 305, I've increased my volume, right? But we know like, oh, I didn't do all of my reps last time. So even if I come in and I actually do the following week 4 sets of 8, now I've increased my volume, right? I'll have increased my volume by 300 pounds because I did 1 more repetition with it. So the point is not to hit a specific volume. The point is just to start to track and then slowly work your way up, okay? Because then your body will start to adapt to that new stimulus, okay? And then it'll start to build muscle and your shape will start to change, right? Now, going back to the last point, best point, about what to think about. The first thing you're going to think about, like I said, is, you know, don't automatically jump to 20,000 pounds per day, okay? Figure out where you're at and then slowly ratchet yourself up by adding rep sets and weight, okay? And not necessarily all at once. This is where programs are good because they usually have this built into them, okay? So, you know, you might have a program where you're doing 4 sets of 8 to 12 reps at a certain weight, and then your goal every week is to try to max out 4 times 12, right? So you have 8 to 12, maybe your first week you're doing 8, 9, 8, 9, but then the next week you're able to do 4 times 12 all the way across. You add a little bit of weight and then you start that process over again. So that's called double linear periodization. It's one of the easiest, simplest ways and most effective ways to continue to add volume, okay? Now, the second thing is you also remember this is about volume accumulated over months and years. So maybe on a certain exercise, you're at, this is when you get stronger. So most people, we're not at this point yet, but as you get stronger, you'll reach a point where you got to decide, do I want to deadlift 500 pounds? Like, yes or no? It's not really necessary for health to be deadlifting 500 pounds. So at those points, you're not trying to increase volume all the time, right? And you're not always going to increase volume specifically for an exercise. Maybe you begin to get your volume in different ways. Maybe you're doing a bunch of kettlebell swings, which is very easy on the body, but it's definitely volume, right? So that's another thing. You want to increase the volume with the least amount of damage or risk or cost of recovery as possible. So like if you do hard workouts and you're deadlifting and squatting and benching, those are tough on the body. You got to account for recovery. Maybe you don't have that much recovery. So easier ways to get volume are low impact stuff, right? So kettlebell swings are a great option because there's no impact, right, to the body. And you can do a lot of volume with that. And other things to think about is like, guess what? If you decide to stick with a certain weight, right? Like, I'm cool with 405 on my deadlift, and I'm not really going to pursue actively heavier and heavier deadlifts. So you work your 300 to 400 pound deadlifts. Maybe sometimes you go to 200s. And over time, guess what? Like, you're getting more volume over the long run, right? So that's another way so that we don't get caught up in, sometimes people are like, oh my God, volume, I'm going to do all of it at all once, and then they break, right? So those are important things to think about. Pick exercises that feel good on your body because you'll be able to do more of them over the long run without getting injured. Tracking is important, whether in an app or in a notebook, and volume is the key that most people forget. Now, last thing, best thing before we wrap this video up is that, yes, building muscle will change the shape of your body, but when you want to start to see that shape more clearly, okay, think of it as the focus on a camera. If you want to see sharper lines and have more definition, what's going to be the factor that changes? What's going to be the thing that sharpens that focus, right? And that blurriness of your shape, of your muscle, right? That's going to be your body fat percentage. And that is all related to your calories, okay? So as much as we all want to do it, we all want to get ripped now, and we want to get shredded now, we want to get leaner now, more toned now. This is actually a bigger, more important part, because fat loss, physiologically, fat loss is easier. Building strength and muscle is a time-consuming process. It takes a long time, right? So I have a lot of people who, you know, they have done the hard part. They've been lifting for a year, 2 years, and we haven't really focused too much on like losing body fat. And that's beautiful, because naturally you'll just start to lose some body fat when you start working out. But it'll take a little bit of focus on the calorie side of things to really sharpen up that definition. But if you spend a year lifting and getting strong, guess what? It's going to be so much easier for you to lose that body fat, right? Because you need more calories. A stronger, more muscular person needs more calories and can lose fat at a higher calorie amount than a smaller, less muscular person, right? A less stronger person. So, you know, people who want to jump right in and lose all this weight by doing cardio and eating nothing, you're in for a rough ride. Whereas if you invest some time into building a big machine here, a big engine, right? It's going to be easy for you to lose fat. So there we go, guys. I hope that was helpful. If this was helpful to you, please like, comment, and share. If you have other questions, leave them in the comments. We will see you in the next video tomorrow, as always. And hope you have a fantastic day and go make those gains, all right?